Discover the incredible divine plan, how 2 million souls crossed the Red Sea in a shocking night. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, when the Israelites were languishing in the grasp of Pharaoh's oppression, a man called Moses emerged as a reluctant leader, called by God to deliver his people. The weight of despair hung in the air, hovering like dark clouds over the hearts of 2 million souls who had toiled under the relentless sun of slavery in Egypt. They had cried out for years, their bitter prayers reaching heaven, until the Lord, in his mercy, chose Moses as his instrument of liberation. Moses, once a prince of Egypt, had fled after committing murder, now returned with a divine mandate: "Let my people go." Powerless against Pharaoh's hardened heart, he confronted the king, declaring God's will with trembling lips. Yet, through a series of mighty plagues, water turned to blood, locusts swarming the skies, darkness over the land, God displayed his sovereignty, revealing the folly of Egypt's false gods. Only after the final plague, the death of the firstborn, did Pharaoh relent, granting the Israelites their freedom. Under the cloak of night, as darkness spread across the land, the Israelites poured forth from their homes, their spirits alight with hope. Yet, as they journeyed toward the shores of the Red Sea, their hearts began to quiver with dread. They reached the vast body of water, its churning waves beckoning with a cold embrace. In the distance, the ominous roar of Pharaoh's army thundered like an approaching storm, growing louder with each passing moment. Fear gripped the multitude, and desperation sank its claws into their hearts. They looked to Moses, their leader, and questioned if he had led them merely to their death. With the army drawing ever closer, dread settled like fog over the camp. The tensions strained the air, but Moses, despite the storm within and the weight of their anxiety, remembered the Lord's command. He raised his hands, aligning himself with the divine will. "Fear not. Stand firm and see the salvation of the Lord," he urged, though trembling beneath the enormity of the moment. The command surged through him, igniting faith in his very being. The people watched as he lifted his staff, invoking the name of Yahweh, the God of their forefathers. Before their very eyes, a miraculous sight unfolded. The waters of the Red Sea parted with a roar, creating colossal walls of liquid on either side. A pathway emerged, dry and solid, beckoning them forward. The ground beneath their feet felt firm, a promise of salvation amid their terror. Families stepped forward, hearts pounding, swallowed by an unshakable tension between fear and faith. As they traversed the sandy seabed, each step crushed doubts and sorrows beneath their feet, bolstered not by understanding, but by a promise that rang clear with every footfall. The moon bathed their path in silver light, illuminating the burgeoning hope that pushed back against the suffocating darkness. As they reached the far shore, breathless and awestruck, the ground shook with the furious approach of Pharaoh's army. Would the waters return, consuming them? The Israelites stood suspended between fear and faith, hearts pounding like war drums as they braced for the Child of Destiny's weighty reveal. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now, let's continue with what the Lord did next. In that charged moment of decision, doubt flickered like shadows, but faith held steadfast. As the last of the Israelites stepped onto safe ground, the waters crashed back, enveloping the Egyptian army in their raging embrace. A new dawn awakened, signifying liberation, yet shrouded in mystery. What awaited the people beyond this watershed moment remained to be seen as they stood on the threshold of a new destiny, ushered into the wilderness, where faith would be their only guide. Would that faith endure through the trials that awaited? Only time would tell as the winds of history began to swirl, igniting the unfolding story of God's relentless faithfulness and the miraculous journey ahead. And it came to pass that as the morning sun cast its golden rays upon the waters now calm, the Israelites stood on the shores of safety, trembling in awe of the mighty hand that had delivered them. The echoes of their cries for help reverberated in their hearts, now transformed into songs of deliverance. Moses, a leader overwhelmed by steadfast purpose, turned to the people and lifted his voice in praise to the God who had led them through perilous waters. "Sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and rider he has thrown into the sea," he declared, and the multitude erupted in unison, their voices rising like a joyful symphony. For on that day, God had shown himself as a warrior, fierce and unyielding against their oppressors, unveiling his sovereignty over both the land and the sea. Yet within the hearts of the people remained a flicker of uncertainty, a question about the path that lay ahead. Having witnessed such a prodigious act of divine power, they now faced the vast wilderness stretching before them. The land was uncharted, its pitfalls unknown. Moses, feeling the weight of their expectant gazes, prepared to share what was in store, reminding them of the promises bound in covenants long since past. "Fear not," he urged once more. "The God who brought us here will not abandon his covenant." The assurance in his voice carried weight, for it was founded on the very words of God made manifest. As days turned into weeks, the Israelites journeyed through the wilderness, where the sun bore down fiercely and the scarcity of water stung their lips. Whispers of discontent grew among the multitude, and they turned to Moses, saying, "What will we drink? Have you led us into this wilderness to perish?" Their faith, once ignited, flickered dangerously in the harsh reality of their surroundings. Moses, perplexed and weary, sought the face of the Lord. "O Lord, what shall I do with this people? They are ready to stone me." And in his faithful love, God responded. He instructed Moses to strike the rock at Horeb, and from it flowed water, cool and life-giving, refreshing the hearts and souls of the weary travelers. As the people drank, their hearts remembered that they were no longer slaves, but children of the Most High, redeemed for a purpose. A covenant people, set apart to worship and serve the living God. Yet trials awaited them, unseen but looming at the horizon like a gathering storm. And it was then, as they continued onward, that the Lord spoke to Moses, declaring, "I will take you to a land flowing with milk and honey, but know this, in the wilderness I will test you. You must remember the roots of your faith, for what I am about to do will shape the generations to come." He further instructed Moses, "Prepare the people, for on the third day I will come down upon Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people." The promise of divine revelation stirred an electric anticipation among them, yet a holy fear accompanied it, for they were about to encounter the Holy One. As the day approached, the skies darkened and the earth trembled, signs of his glorious presence drawing near. The people stood at the foot of the mountain, hearts pounding with a mix of reverence and trepidation. And so, they waited unbeknownst to them, a divine plan unfurled that would not just redeem them from bondage, but carve their identity into the landscape of history. What covenant would God reveal on that mountain? What mysterious purpose lay within his heart for these wandering souls? The air thickened with divine tension, the promise of transformation hanging in the liminal space between the known and the unknown, as the unfolding story of salvation beckoned onward. And it came to pass on the third day, when the morning light broke upon the horizon, that the people of Israel gathered at the base of Mount Sinai, trembling with anticipation. The mountain loomed before them like a great sentinel, shrouded in a cloud of darkness and thunder. An electric charge filled the air, carrying with it the weight of the holiness of God. As the sun climbed higher, the sound of a mighty trumpet pierced the silence, calling forth the people to draw near. The voice of the Lord thundered from the mountain, resounding like a tempest, and all were gripped with awe. Moses approached the mountain, encouraged by the promise God had unfurled before him, for he had called him to ascend and receive what lay hidden in the heart of the Almighty. "Come, and do not be afraid, for the Lord your God has drawn near," proclaimed Moses, yet he instilled in the people reverence, saying, "Do not approach the mountain, for it is holy ground." And the people trembled, their hearts pounding with a mixture of fear and fervent hope. Then the Lord spoke, his voice like the roaring of many waters. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. You shall have no other gods before me. With these words, the very foundation of their covenant began to take shape, creating a chain that would echo through the ages. He spoke further, revealing his righteous commandments, the standards by which they would live. You shall not make for yourself a carved image, nor shall you take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. The commandments were resounding, each word carving out the identity of a people set apart. The air was rife with tension, the divine charge vibrating through the hearts of an expectant nation. As they listened, they understood that these weren't mere rules, but a profound gift and invitation to live in the divine flow of God's very nature. Yet, in this moment of revelation, a sense of weighty wonder compressed against their spirits. Moses returned to the people and conveyed the words of the Lord. Their hearts were stirred, and they responded in unison, all the words which the Lord has said we will do. But within, the shadows of doubt began to flicker, for how could they fulfill such lofty words in the wilderness of their hearts? Moses, sensing their struggles, raised his hands in supplication before the Almighty, pleading for strength to uphold their vow. The Lord will provide, he chanted, each word echoing the promises made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, fortifying their resolve. Meanwhile, as they marveled at the lightning illuminating the clouds that enshrouded the mountaintop, the Lord descended in fire, casting a glorious light upon the earth. The ground trembled violently, and the smoke ascended like that of a furnace, filling their senses with the awe of his holiness. In this moment, God etched the 10 Commandments upon stone tablets, sealing his covenant with them, a proclamation of love, grace, and expectation, but also a reminder of their true identity, a people chosen not by merit but by sovereignty, destined to weave a story worthy of the ages. Yet unknown to them, as the tablets burned with divine fire, a greater revelation awaited. For God's plan was not merely to form a nation, but to prepare a way for a Savior, a light unto the Gentiles, whose coming would fulfill a promise made long before the foundations of the world. And thus, as the mystery deepened, the hearts of the Israelites stood poised for transformation, uncertain of what awaited them beyond the mountain, but ever hopeful. What did the Lord intend to weave together in his grand narrative of redemption? The very thought hung there, pregnant with divine anticipation, as history prepared to unfold a legacy forged by the very hands of God. And it came to pass, as the sound of the commandments rolled like thunder across the hills, that the people of Israel stood in awe, their faces illuminated by the divine fire that enveloped the mountain. Moses, having received the tablets inscribed by the finger of God, descended from the heights, his heart full of the holy weight of the covenant. With solemn determination, he approached the people, who quaked under the weight of divine authority. Behold, the Lord has entrusted us with his covenant. These laws shall guide us as we journey forth, a beacon of righteousness amid the darkness of the nations. Do not stray, for the path is narrow and leads to life. Yet among the throng, a murmur arose, seeds of doubt woven into their hearts. What if we falter? They whispered, voices trembling. What if we cannot keep his commands? Moses raised his voice, his words brimming with fervor. Fear not. The Lord our God is with us. He does not require perfection, but the sincerity of our hearts. Let us cast our burdens upon him who is faithful. He reminded them of the deliverance from Egypt, invoking their shared memory of his mighty hand that parted the waters before them. As they stood beneath the holy mountain, the priests began to prepare the people for the renewal of their covenant with God. The elders gathered, and the sound of sacrifice rose like incense, resonating with the cries of praise and the sobs of confession. The people were reminded of the faithful love that brought them out of bondage, and their hearts swelled with gratitude. Then the Lord spoke again, his voice a gentle whisper among the tempest. You are my people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation. If you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession, for all the earth is mine. In that moment, the promise transcended the fearfulness that had veiled their spirits. They answered, all that the Lord has spoken, we will do. Their declaration echoed forth, reaching into the heavens and drawing them closer to the heart of their God. But, unbeknownst to them, the journey ahead would demand more than mere compliance with the law. It would require a transformation of their very hearts. Days turned into nights as they camped at the foot of Sinai. The cloud rested upon the mountain, still and heavy, and the people waited patient yet expectant. God was revealing not only His commands, but the heart of the covenant, a deep, abiding relationship that would change the tapestry of history itself. In the center of the camp, a new fire flickered, a symbol of both hope and fear. For on the horizon, unknown to the Israelites, the army of Pharaoh had been roused from slumber, pursuing their former slaves with vengeance once more. They did not know that the God who delivered them would bring them through once again, for the sea still awaited its divine parting. As the Lord spoke to Moses, He unveiled a plan that echoed from eternity, a stunning act of salvation that would bear witness to His sovereignty over nature and nations. "Tell the people to move forward," He commanded. "The sea shall part before them, and they shall pass through on dry land." And so, amid the clamor of their fears and the stir of the wilderness, an unshakable hope began to blossom, for the whisper of the Almighty hinted at a deliverance that would shape not just a nation, but the course of all mankind. What was the fullness of this promise, and how would the tapestry of divine purpose unfold in the days to come? The question lingered in the air, a potent reminder of God's greater plan, still veiled in holy mystery. And as the sun began to set over the encampment, a hush fell upon Israel. The people, weary yet filled with trepidation, gazed towards the towering peak of Mount Sinai. Their hearts beat in unison, echoing the divine urgency that pulsed among them. Moses stood at the forefront, his countenance alight with the glow of the mountain's fire, ready to deliver the message from the Almighty. "Gather the people," he called, his voice firm yet gentle, beckoning them to draw near. As they assembled, the shadows of uncertainty cloaked their spirits like a heavy shroud. Some gazed upon the horizon, their hearts troubled by the unseen threat of Pharaoh's advancing force. But Moses, with the tablets of the law in hand, raised his voice above the murmurs of fear. "The Lord has commanded us to stand firm and to see the salvation that He will accomplish for us today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall never see again." His words cut through the darkness, igniting embers of faith within those who heard. As the twilight deepened, the cloud that had been looming over Sinai shifted with divine purpose. The Lord spoke once more to Moses, layers of assurance wrapped in authority. "Tell the people to go forward, for behold, I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they shall pursue you. But I will gain glory for myself through Pharaoh and all his army." Moses turned to the people, his eyes fierce with their shared hope. "Fear not, for in this moment, not only shall the sea part before our eyes, but the glory of the Lord shall be revealed. We shall traverse the mighty waters as dry land, and this act shall be a testament through generations." With hearts aflame, the Israelites prepared in faith. They gathered their families, their possessions, and their stories, weaving them into a tapestry of collective memory. They stood shoulder to shoulder, united in poised expectancy, believing the promise of divine deliverance. At the break of dawn, as the first rays of light pierced the darkness, a great wind stirred upon the waters of the Red Sea. The very elements responded to the Creator's command, an undeniable spectacle for those who remained anchored in faith. The water rose up as walls, shimmering walls that would protect them from their pursuers. With a thunderous crash, the sea parted wide, a path emerging where once there was only the flowing deep. Moses, leading the way, stepped boldly onto the dry ground. The people followed, hearts pounding in rhythm with the beat of their miraculous redemption. Behind them, the shadows of the Egyptian army loomed, fierce in their pursuit. But the Lord, watching over His people, sent chaos into their ranks. The wheels of their chariots became entangled in the very earth that had given way to the Israelites, creating confusion and dismay. "Look not behind you," Moses urged, as they hurried forward. "For the Lord shall fight for you, you have only to be still." Their steps, though hasty, were lights of faith illuminating the darkness of despair. As they crossed over, each soul taking flight from the chains of their past. A profound silence settled among them. They made it to the other side, a vast expanse of safety stretching before them, the waters a testament to the deliverance that only their God could provide. But even as the people celebrated with shouts of joy, singing praises that reverberated amidst the heights of the mountains, a divine solemnity settled in the atmosphere. For they knew that what lay ahead was not merely a physical journey, but a spiritual odyssey that would demand their hearts be in tune with the covenant of their God. How would they respond to the demands of such a commitment? The sea roared behind them as the vengeful tide surged back to reclaim its depths. Yet, a new song was birthed within them, a song of salvation, a testament to the unfathomable love and mercy of the Lord. In that moment, they understood. The God of their deliverance was orchestrating a plan that would echo through the corridors of time, shaping not only their future, but the destiny of all nations. What awaited them beyond the desert sand? The mysteries of God's sovereign purpose awaited further revelation, beckoning them to trust, to follow, and to step boldly into the unfolding of His divine narrative. And as the echoes of their jubilant song faded into the wilderness, a cloud of desolation loomed once more over the hearts of the people. They stood on the shore of salvation, but their journey had only just begun. The trials of the dry desert awaited them, and the Lord would lead them through the unknown. Moses watched as their faces transformed from praise to uncertainty. He understood that the journey would test their spirits, shaping them into a nation devoted to God. "We have crossed from slavery to freedom," he proclaimed, raising his hands to the heavens. "But the path ahead is fraught with challenges, for the Lord desires to mold us in His image." The people listened, their hearts still catching the rhythm of divine victory, yet tinged with the remnants of fear that echoed through their minds. "What will we eat? Where shall we find water?" They murmured among themselves, their voices tinged with anxiety. Moses felt their burden and turned aside to seek the face of God. As he knelt in prayer, the wind whispered secrets of sustenance and grace. The Lord spoke with clarity in the silence. "I will rain down bread from heaven for you, and as for the water, I will provide from the rock." With renewed strength, Moses rose to assure the people, "The Lord will provide. Gather your hearts, for tomorrow you shall witness the glory of the Lord." Their curiosity mingled with hope as they anticipated the miraculous provision that was to come. The following day dawned shrouded in a golden light as fresh dew kissed the earth. As the sun climbed higher, they awoke to find the ground scattered with a fine, flake-like substance. "What is it?" they cried. "Manna," said Moses, "the bread the Lord has given you to eat. Gather enough for each day, for He will provide it anew." They marveled at the wonder of this heavenly gift, tasting the sweetness of God's provision. Yet amidst the joy of their sustenance, the trials of their faith began. Some, tempted by greed, hoarded the manna, but come morning, it was filled with worms and became foul. "In this the Lord seeks to teach you," Moses reminded them, "trust Him each day, for He is faithful." Their journey continued through the arid expanse, and soon their thirst became unbearable. "Why did you bring us here to die?" they cried out to Moses, their hearts heavy with despair. They longed for Egypt, forgetting the chains that once held them captive. Moses, grieved by their doubt, cried out to the Lord, "What shall I do with this people? They are almost ready to stone me." The Lord replied, "Take your staff and strike the rock at Horeb. Water shall flow forth, and the people shall drink." With faith ignited within him, Moses obeyed the command of the Lord. He struck the rock, and from that stone came forth a cascading river of water, nourishing the thirsty souls that had doubted and feared. They drank deeply, and in that moment, the form of their exodus shifted from mere escape to a testament of God's unyielding provision. As the waters flowed, they began to understand the reality of their new identity, a people called to walk in covenant with their God. Yet still, the shadow of the wilderness loomed large. They realized that the journey was not just to the promised land, but a refining of their spirits. Would they trust in the God who parts seas and supplies needs? Could they nurture a faith strong enough to carry them through the desert? And in their hearts, a question pulsed as the clouds gathered on the horizon. Were they prepared to meet the trials that tested their faith, or would they turn back to bondage and fear? As they moved forward, the air thick with the promise of fidelity, they sensed in their spirits that God's sovereign plan was unfurling with each step. What more might he ask of them as they journeyed deeper into his will? The unfolding mystery of his purpose loomed like a cloud above their heads, beckoning them ever onward into a future yet unseen. And it came to pass that as the people journeyed through the desert, their hearts were sorely tested. They wandered for many days, and the sun beat down upon them relentlessly. Each night, as they encamped under the starry skies, they would gather, speaking of their hopes and dreams, yet the whisper of doubt lingered like a shadow. Moses, appointed by the Lord, felt the heavy burden of his task. He often withdrew to the mountain to seek divine solace. One day, as he climbed the rugged slopes of Sinai, a thick cloud enveloped him, and the silence was broken by the voice of the Lord. "I am sending you to the people," the Lord declared, "that they may know I am their God, and they shall be a holy nation." The Lord instructed Moses, "Gather the elders and speak to them the words I give you. Remind them of my covenant, and they shall prepare their hearts to meet me." As Moses descended the mountainside, his face glowed from the presence of God, and he called the elders together. "The Lord has spoken. He desires a people set apart, a treasure in his sight." They listened in awe as Moses shared the words of the Almighty. Yet, amidst the declaration, a spirit of rebellion began to stir in some, fueled by the hardships of their wandering. "In Egypt, we had meat and bread, but here we have nothing," they cried. The murmurings grew like a storm, and Moses pleaded with the Lord on behalf of the people. "Look, O Lord, what shall I do with this multitude? They are more than I can bear." The Lord replied with authority, "Gather 70 elders of Israel to assist you. I will place upon them a portion of the Spirit that is upon you, and they shall help carry the burden of the people." Moses obeyed, appointing the elders, and when they were gathered, the Spirit fell upon them as the Lord promised. They were filled with the wisdom of God, yet still, the hearts of some turned away, desiring to return to the flesh pots of Egypt. Then said the Lord to Moses, "Tomorrow prepare thyself, for I will send quail from the sea to satisfy their cravings, but they shall know my holiness, for they shall eat to their fullness until it becomes loathsome to them." And in the evening, a mighty wind arose from the sea, and flocks of quail descended upon the camp, covering the ground as far as the eye could see. With joy, the people gathered and feasted, yet in their satiation, they forgot the struggle that shaped their journey. The day followed, and the people awoke to find the quail gone, but a strange sweetness left upon the dew-laden ground. They remembered the manna, that daily sustenance provided by the Lord, and they gathered once more, but many would not heed the divine instruction to collect only their daily need. As the days turned to weeks, the cycle of blessing and rebellion continued, and the Lord's patience would be tested. "I shall form a nation from you, molded in trials," the Lord spoke to Moses as he sought him in the tent of meeting. "You shall be to me a people whom I lead as a shepherd, but they must learn the depth of my mercy." In the midst of it all, the people faced their greatest challenge, yet the Amalekites came to put them to the test. The battle surged upon them like a tempest, and Moses stood on the hill, his hands lifted in intercession. As long as his hands were raised, Israel prevailed, but when wearied, they faltered. Then Aaron and Hur, faithful companions, held up his hands until the sun set, and the battle was won. The people rejoiced, and Moses erected an altar, proclaiming, "The Lord is my banner." Yet, even as they celebrated, the echoes of God's plan reverberated in the hearts of the people. How would they continue to rise above their fear and doubt? With each victory, a deeper understanding of their God awaited them. And so, the journey was not just about the destination, but of becoming a people who knew the true power of the Almighty. In the wilderness, the weary hearts sought assurance. Little did they know that the greatest trials were yet to come, and the promised land awaited them not just as a respite, but as the ultimate revelation of his grandeur and mercy. But what would they learn of him in the fierce fires of faith to come? The unfolding mystery of God's sovereign plan loomed ever larger, beckoning them forth to be shaped into a nation that would bless all families of the earth. And it came to pass that after the victory over the Amalekites, the people settled in the wilderness of Sinai, a place of both reflection and preparation. The days grew longer, and the nights, rich with the cries of longing, whispered demands for sustenance. They had feasted on quail and gathered the heavenly manna, yet within their hearts, discontent brewed like a tempest. Moses, called to lead them toward the promised land, sought counsel from the Lord. "O Lord, the people are restless. They thirst for more than these provisions. What shall I do?" In that sacred place of meeting, the Lord spoke with clarity, "Gather the congregation, and they shall know that I am a provider." So it was that Moses summoned the people to the foot of the mountain. As they assembled in expectation, a great cloud enveloped Sinai, and the mountain trembled. The voice of the Lord thundered, saying, "I am the God who brought you out of Egypt. You shall have no other gods before me." The people trembled at the sight of the mountain aflame with the glory of God, for his presence was a fire consuming. They stood afar, frightened yet captivated, and Moses approached the cloud, remaining steadfast, his heart beating in unison with the divine will. Amidst the fear and reverence, the Lord delivered to Moses the commandments, laws that were meant to guide their lives, to carve their identity as a holy nation. "Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt honor thy father and mother," the voice declared, echoing through the valleys. Each word etched upon tablets of stone, sacred and eternal. As Moses descended, the people saw his radiant face, yet beneath their awe was a growing impatience. "Where is this man Moses?" they wondered. "Let us make for ourselves a god." Thus, they turned to Aaron, pleading for a golden calf to lead them, returning to the very idolatry from which they had been delivered. Moses beheld the scene from afar, and his heart sank. "O Lord, what has befallen this people?" he lamented as he dashed down the mountain, tablets in hand. Upon witnessing their wild revelry, he shattered the stones at their feet, the covenant broken before their eyes. "What have you done?" he cried out, his voice filled with anguish and disbelief. Aaron, trembling, answered, "The people were set on mischief. They desired a god to go before them." In that moment, Moses interceded for the people, pleading, "Spare them, O Lord. Let not your anger burn against them, but remember your covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." The Lord heard Moses and relented from his fierce wrath. Yet, a solemn judgment was pronounced. Those who turned to idolatry were called to account. With hearts heavy with the weight of sin, the people gathered as Moses declared, "Who is on the Lord's side? Let him come to me." The sons of Levi gathered to him, having cast aside their rebellion, and they were set apart to serve after the Lord's heart. In that dire moment, the purity of covenant was sought again, and the Lord instructed Moses to carve new tablets, as he reaffirmed his promise. "I will dwell among you, and you shall be my people," he declared, an echo of mercy woven into the fabric of their journey. The Lord revealed to Moses another layer of his divine plan, saying, "I shall go before you, showing wonders that will testify of my might." In the days to follow, Moses would lead the people through trials that would unite their hearts and prepare them for the land flowing with milk and honey. With every unfolding chapter, they stood on the precipice of destiny. Before them lay not merely the trials of the wilderness, but a promise yet to be fulfilled. The Red Sea awaited, and with it, the miraculous hand of God beckoned to reshape their understanding of faith and deliverance. What more would they discover of the Lord's sovereignty as they faced the waters? The divine plan was in motion, and the journey was far from over. And it came to pass that as the people of Israel sojourned in the wilderness, the word of the Lord came again to Moses. "Tell the children of Israel to prepare themselves, for I shall make my name known in all the earth." Moses gathered the elders and spoke unto the people, saying, "Consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will perform wonders among you." The hearts of the people trembled with a mix of fear and expectation as they recalled the mighty works of their God. As the sun dipped below the horizon, a pillar of cloud descended, resting upon the camp. Night engulfed them, yet the presence of the Lord was a light unto their path. The sound of a great wind stirred the camp, and the earth quaked as the Lord began to speak to Moses once more from the midst of the cloud. Let the children of Israel set their faces toward the sea which I will part for them, the Lord instructed. For they shall see my glory, and the Egyptians whom they see today, they shall see no more. A wave of divine assurance swept through Moses as he relayed the message to the people. Fear not. Stand firm, and see the salvation of the Lord. Meanwhile, the hearts of the Egyptians were hardened, and Pharaoh commanded his army to pursue the Israelites, saying, "Let us bring them back to slavery." The chariots of Egypt thundered across the desert, a terrifying sight that sent tremors through the hearts of the Israelites. As the people of Israel gazed across the expanse of the Red Sea, they saw the dust of the pursuing army rise like a storm. In anguish, they cried out to Moses, "Have you brought us here to die? Did we not say in Egypt, 'Leave us alone that we may serve the Egyptians'?" But Moses turned to them, his heart steadfast, filled with the resolve of the Almighty. "Do not be afraid. The Lord will fight for you, and you have but to be silent." Then the Lord commanded Moses, "Lift your staff over the sea, and divide it, that the people may go on dry ground." With faith in the divine promise, Moses raised his staff, and the waters began to part. The sea was a wall on their right and a wall on their left, an astounding miracle that would shape their history. On dry ground, they began to cross, 2 million souls stepping into a path the Lord had prepared. As dawn broke, the Egyptians followed, blinded by their own lust for power. The wheels of their chariots became heavy, and confusion filled their ranks. The Lord looked down from his pillar of cloud and cast the army into disarray, making their paths treacherous. The last of the Israelites reached the other side, and the Lord commanded Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, that the waters may return." And as Moses obeyed, the waters surged back together, swallowing the might of Pharaoh's army. The people of Israel beheld the hand of God, for thus they saw the mighty salvation he wrought that day. Exultation filled their hearts as they sang praises unto the Lord, declaring his power and might. "I will sing unto the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously." Miriam, the prophetess, led the women with tambourines, dancing in celebration of their deliverance. Yet amid the joy, a deeper lesson lingered, a whisper within their hearts. The journey ahead was wrought with challenges, and they would need to remember the Red Sea as the testimony of God's enduring faithfulness. What further wonders would lay before them as they journeyed toward Canaan? The Lord's sovereign plan was unfolding, revealing not only their destiny, but the very nature of his covenant love and unfailing mercy. As they faced what lay beyond the wilderness, the question loomed, how much more would they understand of their God's enduring faithfulness through the trials to come? And it came to pass, after the songs of triumph faded into the golden sands of the wilderness, that the people of Israel gathered their hearts and thoughts, awash in a mixed swell of joy and uncertainty. The Red Sea behind them marked the end of an oppressive past, while before them lay the vast unknown, a wilderness that would test their very souls. Yet through it all, the divine promise lingered, igniting hope within their hearts. Moses led them onward, his spirit resolute amidst their wavering faith. "Remember the mighty wonders the Lord has performed," he urged, inviting them to recount the miracles, each step forward steeped in divine grace. "It is not merely his acts, but his steadfast love that will guide us." Thus, they settled into a rhythm of remembrance, establishing altars of gratitude at each pivotal moment, anointing their journey with the acknowledgement of the one who had redeemed them. But as the days stretched on and the sun blazed overhead, weariness began to seep into their bones. "What will become of us now? Our bellies still hunger," came the murmurs as they noticed the dwindling provisions. Moses, upon hearing their cries, ascended the mountain once more, presenting their needs before the Lord. "Lord, they doubt, and fear has crept in like a thief. How shall I lead these people?" And the Lord, in his unfailing compassion, replied, "I will rain down bread from heaven for you. Each day they shall gather their fill, and they will know that I am their provider." That evening the skies stirred and dew descended, unveiling flakes of bread upon the earth, the heavenly manna. The people marveled, filling their eyes with wonder as they tasted it, sweet upon their tongues, a direct gift from their Creator. Yet, even amid this grace, some hearts grew troubled, drawn on by the specter of craving, their memories clouded by longing for the comforts of Egypt. Is this enough? They pondered amid the miraculous. Can we trust in this daily bread? Moses, feeling the weight of their doubt, sought the Lord again and received divine guidance. Teach them to gather only what they need for the day, lest they forget my provision and seek to hoard and control. Thus, he shared with the Israelites the wisdom of trusting each day for their needs, molding a faith that leaned not on their own strength, but on his unending sustenance. The days stretched into weeks, each unfolding with trials that pressed against their spirits like fires refining gold. During one such moment, the Amalekites attacked, ambushing them in their weakness. Who will fight for us? The people lamented, fear gripping their hearts. Stand firm, children. Moses commanded, lifting his hands to the heavens. As his arms reached toward the Almighty, Joshua led the men into battle below. Each time Moses' arms grew weary, the tide of the battle shifted against them, until Aaron and Hur joined him, raising his hands and holding him aloft. Beneath the weight of their unity, victory surged forth, securing the promise of protection from their foes. As they emerged victorious, it became clear that this journey through wilderness was not just one of physical deliverance, but one of spiritual deepening. The command of the Lord echoed in the hearts of his people, "You are to be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation." What did this covenant demand of them? They were called not merely to occupy land, but to embody the very nature of their God, holy, just, and loving. And it came to pass that as they continued on, a holy fire ignited in their souls. Let each trial shape us. They rallied, their spirits united in purpose as they set their sights on the promised land, a rich inheritance flowing with milk and honey. Through the care of Moses and the counsel of the Lord, they learned to lay down their burdens in prayer, trusting the one who had brought them safely through the waters. In the fullness of days, as they gathered around the sacred tent, Moses imparted the law anew, refining their understanding to embody not just rules, but a righteous relationship with the God of heaven. Remember not only the commands, but the heart. He encouraged them. You're loved, and your calling is greater than yourselves. Thus, the Israelites journeyed onward, enveloped in hope and weary faith, yet every step filled with the promise of restoration. The wilderness, once a place of struggle, transformed into ground of encounter, a cradle for a covenant people who understood their worth in the eyes of their Creator. As they crossed yet another threshold, Moses reminded them, "Remember, the Lord will fight your battles. You have only to be still." They carried this truth within their hearts like a banner through the ages, enduring the trials ahead, knowing that the God of their deliverance had proven faithful and would yet see them home. And it was then, under the watchful skies, that a new wind beckoned, a whisper of promise beyond the horizon, a land prepared for them. They pressed forward, their hearts attuned to the melody of divine faithfulness, eager to encounter the fullness of his purpose wherever their journey would take them. For this was not just a quest to claim a land, but to weave the very essence of God into their lives, creating a legacy that would reflect his glory through generations to come. As you reflect on this story of hope and deliverance, remember that we, too, are called to trust in God's unyielding promise. Let us hold fast to our faith amidst trials, believing that just as the Israelites were led, we also are guided by his sovereign hand. If this message has ignited a spark within you, subscribe immediately to the channel to keep receiving powerful biblical stories that transform lives. Leave a like now to help spread God's word through the algorithm and let others experience his faithfulness. I invite you to comment below with your spiritual reflections. How has this story shaped your faith? Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. Together, let us illuminate hearts with the light of his love.